Hello, welcome or welcome back to She's an Anomaly. My name is Elizabeth, your anomaly, and today we're going to be talking about a topic of what it's like to be autistic and have ADHD. On this channel, I'm going to be doing some various and random different topics that are important to me and hopefully will be important to you. It's going to be more of just my talking and maybe reacting to different things. But since now Autism Acceptance Month has changed, is now drawing to a close. However, we don't ever really stop accepting and learning more about it. I thought maybe I would do a video about autism as well as ADHD. I was diagnosed with autism, or back in the time was Asperger's, but we now know that term has become outdated and is no longer used for various reasons that many times have become offensive, and we no longer use that term. But I was diagnosed at age 22. And I was also diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder at age 22 as well by two different psychologists. Of course, at that time, when I was 22, which is back in 2012, it was not known that a person could have both autism as well as ADHD in the same body. So I was treated for other disorders that were not ADHD, even though that's what I was displaying. So the psychiatrist knew that I had autism, and even when I went to a mental hospital, it was known that I had autism. But the other confusing component of my disorder was ADHD, but they were unable to figure out what it was. So I was diagnosed with anything from dissociative identity disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective, obsessive compulsive disorder. I've been diagnosed with many, many, many disorders, from personality disorders to schizophrenia, all kinds of anxiety disorders, because it was very difficult to figure out what the problem was. Of course, even after the research had come out that yes, a person can have both of the disorders in the same body, my psychiatrist and others had not updated their research and their knowledge to understand, okay, a person can display both of these in the same body. So I've been on numerous of antipsychotics, and I've had just about almost all of them, except for maybe a few, and most of just the newer ones that have come out. Thankfully, it wasn't until recently that now it is well known that I have both autism and ADHD, but that diagnosis did not become fully known until I began to display more physical health problems. So it happens that one can have physical issues that come along with having other disorders. Now, ADHD has two different forms, or a combined form. So really, there are three different forms of ADHD. One can have an inattentive form. You can have a combination of inattentive and hyperactivity, or hyperactivity form. I have the hyperactivity, where you might think I would be running around in every place, but no, I'm not. Actually, the hyperactivity makes me tired and worn out, simply because my whole body is constantly on edge, thinking that it has to do something or planning to do something, but it really makes me tired because my brain works 24/7, and my heart overworks, and my muscles overwork, and my whole body overworks, simply to keep my body going. So I must take medication to try to slow my body down and slow my mind down to keep my body from going so quickly. So it kind of goes in the opposite direction. So yes, everything's sped up and it's always overworking. I can be a fast talker. Everything goes quickly. But the down part of that is I tend to spend a lot of time worn out and tired. So I can look like a very lazy person because I'm usually sleeping or having to lay down. But it's because my body has worn itself out. I mean, it really wears itself down doing some very minor things. It can be that just getting up and doing a little bit of cleaning of my room will wear my body down so fast I become completely worn out and tired. So at 34, I find myself having to rest a lot more, sit down a lot, trying to catch my breath. Yes, it does come. I have now because I have a couple of conditions that cause me to be more tired with my heart because of the constant working. So because my heart is so overworked, it's caused some, leaky valves. It's caused things that come with generally old age. But because my heart is working so hard, it's come a little faster. So it happens that hyperactivity can bring on problems that most don't foresee when you have ADHD, attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity. So the hyperactivity definitely can cause one to be a little more out of breath. But when I was younger, it gave me a lot of energy. I was able to write reports really fast. I was able to do a lot of things quickly. But as I got older, between the autism and the ADHD, eventually my body kind of started falling to pieces trying to keep everything together. Now I tend to go a lot slower because my body is already trying to move quickly. So trying to slow my body down because it needs to move faster is a job because it's already trying to run and go everything quickly. So I have to slow it down, which I have to consciously think about how quickly and how much I'm doing and pull it back to slow it down and remind myself to breathe deeply, to be calm, to not walk too fast. But in that thinking process, it wears out my brain because I'm trying to tell myself not to move so quickly. So depending on what kind one would have, it depends on what kind of what type of ADHD you have. One can make you not so tired as maybe make you more scatterbrained, forgetful, not sure where everything is. For me, I can become forgetful, but it becomes forgetful to the point that that is painful, such as having to do the same thing 10 different times simply because I keep forgetting what I walk into a room for. But I forget every time I walk in the room. I walk back to my room and go back to the next room, and I still forget. And I walk back to the room and walk. So I've done the same routine over and over again to the point that my body is so worn out, it just cannot keep going anymore. Or I go in to get something to eat, but I don't know what I want to eat. And I just stand in the refrigerator looking because I really don't know what I want to eat, but I know that I'm hungry, but I don't know what I want to eat. My autism is saying, I don't want that texture of food. And my ADHD is saying, I'm hungry. It's like, I want to eat something. But the autism is saying, I don't like that. I don't want that texture. That doesn't taste good. That doesn't smell good. So between the two of them fighting each other, one is saying, I'm hungry, feed me. The other one is saying, I don't like that. I don't want that. Don't feed me this. And it would seem like it'd be natural just to get something to eat. But it's not that easy. So there's one part of you fighting saying, just give me something to eat. The other part saying, don't touch that. I don't like the smell of that. I don't like the smell of their pantry. I don't like the smell of the refrigerator. I don't like the smell of downstairs. I don't like that. Oh, well. And by the time I'm done, it's like, oh, you're not that hungry. So then I go upstairs. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just get something to drink. Because apparently I'm like, maybe I'm not that hungry. And then a little while later, I'm like, yes, I am hungry. So then go back downstairs and it's like, oh, still don't want anything to eat. But I want something to eat, but I just don't. But my one part is saying, eat this. And the other part is saying, I don't like that texture. I don't like that smell. But it's something I generally would enjoy eating, except for at that point in time, one part of me is the autism part is saying, I don't like the texture. I don't like the smell. I don't like the feel. I don't like the taste. The other part, ADHD, is saying, look, just take something. I'm hungry. So it's constantly a balance between trying to keep one part of you happy and the other part of you satisfied. I describe myself as having two little 3-year-olds in my body, all warring for trying to take dominance, and neither one really can win. Well, except for it just simply means I try to keep an equilibrium between two opposites of a spectrum. One part of me, the autism, likes more order and wants things to be done a certain way, things like textures, everything. The ADHD is like, I don't care. Just give me what I want. Just feed me. Take care of this. Do this. And it just leave the room in a mess. Leave it. With autism, it's like, okay, I need to start in an orderly fashion. I want to put this here, put that. They just like, oh, just throw it on the side. Just put it there. So it's kind of two parts in one body that make for a very tiresome and kind of more irritating life. But it's interesting to coexist with both of them because it means I have to constantly find a happy medium between the two of them. And when sometimes there's no happy medium between the two, that is when I usually will usually will put some CBD oil on and go to sleep. Because at that point, I cannot find anywhere, there's no middle ground between the two of them. And that's the point where I take a nap. And after I put on my CBD oil and I put on some lavender, some rest essential oils, and turn on some calming music, and I take a nap, when I wake back up, I can figure out a way to find a nice medium between the two of those disorders. So I have in my notes here what it's like to be on the spectrum with both of those two disorders. Well, for most of my life, up until 22, I didn't know I had them, but they were there. I just didn't know what the names were. I knew there was something weird about me. I knew I was a little interesting. And yes, my brother knew. And probably some of my other peers knew. I was homeschooled, so most of my friends were a little interesting too. But those who are more normal, I think they kind of recognized something was a little interesting with me. I'm always laughing, jovial, happy, random, the kind of odd person who would just be willing to usually said anything. My whole life, generally up until probably a couple of years ago, has been spent with the don't say that, don't do that, that's inappropriate, you can't say those words, do not say that, don't say that, don't say that either, you're talking too much, you're talking too much, that's enough. And having my name called, I say that you've said enough. Don't say any more. Don't talk anymore. Those usually the words the phrases I've grown up with is like, okay, that's enough. You've said enough. You're talking too much. It was not talking too much and the fact that I was giving out too much information. It was more that I was probably saying something that my mother deemed was inappropriate or not very nice. So I've grown up all my life with the don't say that. When I was younger, I could talk at 9 months. So naturally, from an early age, I have had the prior to when you get out of the car, like there was on the way to an event conversation. There was the don't speak unless you're spoken to. Don't, only answer the question that the person is asking you. Do not give any more information to them that they did not ask. If they ask you how you are, you say, I'm fine, and leave it. Don't say anything else. If they don't say anything else to you. Don't give any information that they didn't ask for. If they're not talking to you, don't talk back to them. It was that was what I got all the way through up until, I guess probably in my 20s or so. That was the conversation. And then, of course, there was the briefing on the way there, and then the debriefing when you come home. That was what you did wrong, which it was all the things that you could have improved on, what was done wrong, what you didn't like. The autism of me enjoyed the structure. The ADHD part of me was like, get out of my face. So that the two different things, the autism was like, okay, good, I've learned what I need to do and fix it. The ADHD part was like, okay, so what? Now that I know I'm going to be in trouble no matter what I do, let's just have fun. So eventually it just became figuring out, okay, how much can I get away with? And that's how I had fun in life, was because I knew I knew somehow something was going to go wrong somewhere. And it wasn't because I was on purposely trying to be offensive. And that's what people have to realize. Those of us who have autism, ADHD, or have autism or ADHD or both, we're not trying to be offensive. It's just generally most normal people usually lie very well. Like most people who are normal just lie. So they're unaccustomed to hearing truth. And unfortunately, many of us, if we can, become very good liars simply because you know that you need to conform to the standards of what other people want. So you know that, okay, this is a cruel thing to say. You can't say that. You know that the truth is going to get you in trouble. So what's better than the truth? People would rather believe a lie than the truth. I mean, the Bible states that anyway. So as far as the Bible, I looked up the verse and realized people would rather believe the lie than the truth. And I realized that average humans would prefer to believe a lie than a truth. And I found that to be very, very true. That humans would rather believe a lie than the truth. And you know what? It's gotten me through life very well, because people would rather believe lies than truth. I'm not saying you should lie, but after much of my life, I realized in general, people don't like to believe the truth. So Sadly, it gives us plenty of room to lie because they would rather not know the truth. And I realized the word was right. People would rather have someone tell them an untruth than to tell them the truth. And I realized throughout my lifetime that as long as you told a person what they wanted to hear, whether it was true or not, they liked it. They just didn't want to hear anything that made them feel badly. And unfortunately, that type of behavior, especially growing up in a church, didn't feel good because you knew that people would rather hear what they wanted to hear as opposed to hearing the truth. And now my whole family is everybody in my family I've known to grow up in a church setting. Everybody. But it was then I realized that most people don't really I realized at that time when I was growing up as a little kid, people didn't really believe the Bible because if they did, they wouldn't mind hearing the truth. So it was then I learned people generally don't like it. However, as my diagnosis came when I was 22, it shed light to other people so that they could learn, wait a minute, are we doing what's wrong? Are we in the wrong or is she in the wrong? And now as time has gone on, I think many people have started realizing that they were in the wrong. That it's hard, sometimes truth is hard to hear, but it's better to believe the truth than the lie. Because sure, the lie may feel better and the truth does hurt, but it actually works better to hear the truth even though the lie might feel better. So that's one of the things of living on the spectrum. I've had most of my life has been really nice. I've enjoyed a lot of things. Because I was homeschooled, I didn't have to really deal with the pressures of other things. I mean, some people may have certain other disorders that go along with it. I've never been I might say a sensitive, person to have rejection issues. I know some people do have rejection sensitivity disorder. I never really had rejection problems. I mean, I think in the sense of I've had friends leave, and my real problem was I didn't get a chance to break it off with them first, or I didn't get a chance to be mad at them first. That was more so, or I didn't get a chance to tell them off. That was more the issue why I was really mad because, it wasn't so much I was crying because I was sad. I'm crying because I just wanted to, tell them off. If that was, but it never did happen. So no, I didn't have rejection issues. I just had the issue with I couldn't, just completely tell them off in the meanest way possible. But over time, I've grown to be a lot more mellow now. I've mellowed out a great deal. I think some of that comes with age. Age and maturity allows one to mellow out. I mean, I've changed a lot, and I have to say that having autism and ADHD means that we often mature a little slower, sometimes a lot slower than those who are supposed to be normal. I mean, honestly, I can't say that we mature that much slower. I mean, as a woman, I would say I mature slower than most of the women around me. But I can't say I mature slower than most of the guys around me because I mean, I can say that I'm around the same age as most of the guys. But for the women, I would say I matured a lot slower than a lot of the other women around me. I can definitely say that. And as far as matured, but I would say adulting as well, for doing things that most adults would do, I'm still very far behind in that one. But yeah, as far as growing up, maturing, learning how to handle my attitude, my personality, learning how to deal with things better, I would say I matured well enough for that one. Even when I was pretty like I got around to my 27, 28, 29, my ability to handle things became better. I began to grow up a lot more and began to mature. So if that is an issue that you have with your child or someone is, it takes a little time for us to sometime get to a level that you would like to have with your child, that level of maturity, because it takes us longer. I mean, after all, we have to battle a lot of problems that normal people don't have to. I mean, we have to battle a lot of things that you will never, that a person who's a neurotypical will never have to deal with. Such as generally being neurotypical, you will most likely never have to deal with the fact of not wanting to brush your teeth. There is the thing of not wanting to brush teeth versus the irritation that brushing teeth will bring. There's a difference between saying, okay, I really have a hard time putting on this outfit versus this outfit is hurting and scratching me and I can't stand it. And I can feel my clothes on me all day. So there are things that we deal with that average people never do. So for me, I fill all of my clothes. And for other people who are autistic, they probably have things they can fill in them too. So you can fill, some people can fill their shoes on them. Some of them like to fill the shoes, some of them don't. So we have things that we can fill clothes, fill the tags, such as growing up, they didn't make tagless t-shirts when I was growing up. You had to try to take the tag out. But when I was younger, it's kind of weird to say, how do you say the tag is irritating my back, or how the tag is irritating my neck, it's hurting. So there were a lot of things that we dealt with, such as the tags on our clothes, or maybe a material rubbing the wrong way, or simply just realizing that everything you're wearing, you're feeling. So there are a lot of things that we feel and we can tell are there, minus what that other people never will have to experience. Having to process all of that information 24/7 is not like what other people have to deal with. And even when we sleep, we don't necessarily get a break like a regular person gets a break. We are still processing information that comes in. So just because we're sleeping, it doesn't mean we can't hear what's going on. We can't hear what's down the street. We can't. So we're still processing outside information while we're sleeping. So we never really get a full on break, because the only way we get a break from anything is that we must depart out of our bodies. So technically, as long as we stay in our bodies, we don't really ever get a break from anything. Sleep doesn't necessarily bring a break from anything. It just simply allows us to try to recuperate as best as we can and move forward. So that's sometimes why we can be a little slower at doing what we consider most of normal people consider usual and average things. On the other hand, we tend to be pretty good at other things that most generally people are not going to be so keen about, such as some of us are really obsessed with numbers. Some might be obsessed with particular shows and really know a lot of things about them. For me, I like to learn. I learn everything. I mean, I love dolls and I love learning. I mean, I love to learn about anything. I mean, I will learn literally about anything. If it can be learned, I'm going to learn it. I have my phone, and generally on my phone, while most people are scrolling, watching videos, I do that sometime, but for the most part, I'm online trying to learn something new, because there's always something out there to learn. Like, I mean, it's something to learn, and I love the fact that sometime in my brain, it just looks like a computer screen. I just move things around on it, because it's kind of like tying things together, and it's amazing. So kind of it's that we might be missing some things, but what we have to offer is even more interesting, because we don't think like regular people. Hopefully as this channel progresses, I'd like to kind of delve into a little bit more of what the mind of an autistic person with an ADHD person, a neurodivergent person is like. Our minds are very different. They don't work the same way as a regular person's mind works. And I think it's going to be a great help to people out there to learn how our minds work. So that way, it will help people to understand us, and it will help people make preventions and to be able to help things not happen that may happen in the future. So that, think about it, it will help people not bully. It will help many other things, violent incidents that happen. It will also help people feel a lot more safe and comfortable around people who are normal. There won't be the feeling of animosity and irritation between those who are neurodivergent versus those who are on the neurotypical side. So I think sometimes having a mediator who understands both sides helps. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please join me again next time. Goodbye.